The second edition of the ministerial briefing has started in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. Now, the series is a platform where key federal government officials are expected to provide regular updates on projects they have implemented so far. The session kicked off with the Ministers of Livestock Development, Alhaji Idi Mukhtar, and Regional Development, Abubakar Momoh. The Tinubu administration hopes to demonstrate its commitment to open communication and good governance through the series, which will be open to the public. Now, to help put this into perspective, we are joined by the Senior Special Assistant on Digital New Media to President Tinubu, O'tega Ogra. Thank you for joining us, O'tega.
Good evening, and thank you for having me on here.
Good evening. All right, now, what specific performance metrics will be utilized to hold federal ministers accountable for their achievements?
Thank you very much. So, as you're aware, the monitoring and evaluation framework for governance under this administration is under the Central Delivery and Coordination Unit, headed by the Special Advisor to the President, Abubakar Momoh. In the past few months, since the government came on board, what the CDC have done is, create KPIs in collaboration with the ministries on the key presidential priorities, which are to reform the economy, to strengthen national security, for peace and prosperity, to boost agriculture, to unlock energy and natural resources, infrastructure and transportation, the focus on health, education, social development as essential pillars for development. Also to accelerate the diversification of the economy using digitalization, the creative arts, manufacturing, industrialization, and co. And most importantly, to improve governance, for effective service delivery. So all of those have been identified as the key presidential priorities captured under the renewed up agenda. And on the basis of that, the CDCU, headed by Abubakar Momoh, goes to meet each ministry, each department and agency, creates the KPIs in collaboration with both the political arm and the administrative arm, that is the civil service of the ministry or department or agency, as the case may be. On the basis of that, a monitoring and evaluation framework is put in place to measure deliverables on those things. So for each of those 8 presidential priorities, you have, each ministry that is responsible for achieving all of that. Under each ministry, you can then find out what the KPIs are.
Well, you did mention quite a few performance metrics, but, do they guarantee that the ministers' actions and outcomes will truly reflect President Tinubu's grand vision for economic recovery, enhanced security, and also robust infrastructure development?
Okay. Yes, it does, because the president came into office prepared. Prior to assuming office, we had a plan, and that plan has been stuck to, most part of the way. And why would it, you asked a question as to whether it can achieve the goals of the administration. I would say yes. So if you go to the CDCU website, which is app.cdcu.gov.ng, you would see all those things because it's actually publicly available information. You see all the 8 presidential priorities. Once you click on either of the priorities, it shows you the ministries responsible. So for instance, let's take the reform of the economy one. You have the Ministry of Finance, you have the Ministry of Budget and Planning, you have other ministries that work together on that. Under the Ministry of Finance, you see things like tracking the implementation of tax waivers, deepening tax collection and broadening the tax nets, automations, you have implementing the fiscal risk strategy and debt management strategy of the government. So all those things have been carefully planned in collaboration with each of the ministries, so that at the end of the day, because we're using an all-of-government approach, we do not believe any problem that bedevils us in this country or anything that needs to be fixed can be done by one ministry, one person alone. No, it's an all-of-government approach, it's an holistic approach that looks at how each of these things, or the role each agency, ministry, or department has to play in each of those 8 presidential priorities. And their deliverables are broken down into that, which is also tracked, based on the monitoring and evaluation framework.
Okay. Now, still speaking on monitoring and evaluation framework, will periodic assessments be conducted? I'm asking because we'd like to know what criteria will determine the success or even the failure of each ministry's initiatives?
Okay, so based on all these KPIs, so what Adeza's team does is they have, real-time and periodic reviews as part of their monitoring and evaluation framework. Based on the KPIs that have been set with each of these ministries, the CDCU goes to them, they get the reports from the ministries, from the ministers, departments, and agencies. They get, independent assessments, and they also get public feedback based on each of the KPIs and deliverables for all these people. Mind you, these deliverables are all measurable. They're time-bound also, and this comprehensive M&E framework is what feeds into the quarterly performance reports and review for all the ministers in Nigeria. The president also meets with each minister as often as possible within that period to understand what their needs are, to understand where their challenges are, and to have, a first-hand view or overview of the situation. So all this comes together, and for instance, the ministry is having bureaucratic delays in anything they're doing, for instance, because the CDCU monitors them on an ongoing basis, because they get real-time reports based on their KPIs. They can easily go meet whichever ministry or agency is responsible for helping to break down that, bureaucratic challenge that they're having and fix it.
Okay. Now,
so the system is pretty much proactive.
All right, O'tega. Just before we let you go, all these initiatives affect the citizens, that's the people. Now, will the public be granted access to the ministers' scorecards, to maintain transparency and accountability in the assessment process? So
I think you would agree with me that one thing that's been the hallmark of this administration is transparency and accountability. Even when something misses us, we are not afraid to, take it on board and go back and, fix whatever is wrong. And it's the same thing too with the CDCU. Citizens participate through the app, and the app is it's a web app. It's app.cdcu.gov.ng. Anyone can go there. You can see what any minister is doing. You also can give your feedback at designated periods by the CDC, by the units, as to how the agencies, ministries, and departments are performing. For instance, the road is meant to be constructed in your area, and that's part of what they're meant to do as part of, opening up the economy. You should be able to, report that ministry or report that department or agency to the CDCU, and this feeds into the ministerial, report that's fed to the president, which the president also utilizes in making decisions as to, those that are working with him.
Okay.
So yes, it's very much open and transparent, and again, everything also aligns with the national development goals that we have.
Okay. All right, O'tega. Well, thank you so much for your time and for speaking to us.
Thank you very much.